If you felt the temperature rise across boxing news lately, you're not imagining it. The debate around Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford has turned from whispers into a roaring fire. On one side, confidence, conviction, and a growing chorus insisting Crawford is a pound-for-pound king and perfectly capable of solving Canelo at super middleweight. On the other side, experience, size, and the simple stubborn truth of weight classes. Between the two is the kind of fight that splits families into late-night arguments, fills group chats, and reminds us why the sport stays undefeated in the drama department. Canelo Alvarez has finally addressed the noise, both with respect and skepticism you'd expect from a champion who has lived among the sport's elite for more than a decade. He gave Crawford his due. The dismantling of Errol Spence Jr., he admitted, was impressive. In fact, Canelo said, Crawford made it look easier than almost anyone thought possible. But he also struck a note of caution. In his view, Spence stands as the only top-tier name Bud has beaten. Beyond that, the Mexican superstar questioned the depth of Crawford's resume compared to his own. "We'll see," was a line he delivered with that Canelo smile. Translation: I've seen enough fighters to know the difference between highlights and hard reality once the bell rings. Their exchanges haven't just been technical. There's a hint of something personal now. In one moment, Canelo teased at Turki Alashik, who has emerged as one of the most influential figures in modern boxing, will be fuming on fight night because he's standing in Crawford's corner. Smirk, eye contact, a subtle message. I see the celebrities, I see the power brokers, and it won't matter when the leather starts flying. For all Canelo's self-assured calm, his camp is clearly taking the matchup seriously. One move sparked headlines and debate everywhere. Canelo brought Jaron Boots Ennis into camp for sparring. Boots is a nightmare replica for anyone preparing for a shape-shifting opponent. Switch hitter, fast hands, ridiculous reflexes, size, a boxing brain that accelerates under pressure. As Johnny Ortiz put it, Ennis is the perfect sparring partner. If you want to simulate the southpaw/orthodox switches, the rhythm changes, and that patience at Crawford. Quiet message to anyone sleeping on Canelo's preparation. Eddie Reynoso's camp is building a plan, not a poster. Not everyone wants to hear that. Some fans counter with a different take. Jaron Ennis is Jaron Ennis. He isn't Terrence Crawford. You can work on the timing. You can simulate some angles. But there's only one Bud. Meanwhile, voices out of Philadelphia pointed out something that got overlooked in online arguments. The Ennis camp has long-standing ties with Canelo's team. Boots has been around that circle before. Canelo has brought in Philly fighters for years to prepare for elite technicians. This isn't disloyalty. It's boxing. Sparring is paid work and priceless experience. Jose Benavidez, Sr. backed Canelo's choice. He called the Boots move smart and suggested it provides Canelo not just sharp rounds, but psychological confidence. Knowing that he'd been getting looks from someone closer to Crawford's build and style, Benavidez also raised the idea that size could prove decisive. He worries that if Crawford stands a trade with Canelo, he'll pay dearly. In Benavidez's words, Bud's path is simple. Tap and move, touch and go, and never stay in the pocket for too long. If he can make a fight of straight punches, angles, and feet, he can bank rounds. If he hangs around, the fight can change with one shot. That theme came up again and again from analysts who've seen careers end with that one punch. Antonio Tarver spelled it out. Canelo only needs one shot to change the fight, he said. That's not a disrespect to Crawford. It's a reminder of physics. Bud might be more active. He might be the better counterpuncher. But power at super middleweight doesn't evaporate because your opponent is more accurate. Crawford's job, if you want a guarantee, is to get ahead and stay there without conceding a single moment to Canelo's heavier hands. If you're keeping track of these camps, you've noticed a thread. Team Canelo is preparing for everything Crawford can do. The rhythm changes, the switch stance, the mid-combination counters, the southpaw jab that doubles as a measuring stick and a trap. Team Crawford is preparing for the one thing you can't simulate at full speed in the gym. Canelo's size at 168, the deep balance of man who sits down on every shot without overcommitting, and the thick hips ability that lets him absorb shots most fighters can't handle. Then there's the brute scale of the event itself. Boxing's future is being written on streaming services, and the numbers prove it. The Netflix exhibition between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson reached a concurrent high of 65 million viewers. That's a number unimaginable in the old cable era. Some argue Canelo versus Terence Crawford could challenge that record if the story captures mainstream attention beyond boxing fans. Others say both men are too classy for the theater that casual viewers latch onto, that without an antagonist, the fight may land between 10 and 15 million live peak viewers globally. Either way, the data tells you something. Boxing hasn't shrunk. It has moved. Past the business is a question only the ring can resolve. How do you beat a bigger man? Terence Crawford has thought about this long enough to answer without drama. There are two clean options. Push the stronger fighter back, because big men don't like to retreat, or box him outdoors. Keep it in the suburbs. Make him march. Make him reach. Make him tired in ways that don't show up on the scale. Crawford isn't delusional. He knows he can't apply a Gennady Golovkin-style pressure at 168. He doesn't have Dmitry Bivol's frame either. He has to choose plan 2, at least early. Box, offset, stick, move, freeze him with short counters, and slide to the exit before the receipt comes flying back. Timothy Bradley put it bluntly. He pointed at Canelo's night against William Skull. 152 punches thrown over 12 rounds is an output that won't win a fight. Thrives when he's the one picking the exchanges. If Skull could force Canelo to hesitate and reduce volume, Bradley argued, what do you think Crawford can do with superior timing, angles, and ring IQ? He tossed in the Jermel Charlo data point. 2. A 154-pounder moving up to 168 and going the distance. Now swap Charlo's toolkit for Crawford's. You don't think Bud can touch the final bell? Sean Porter, who has shared rounds and bright nights with many of the era's best, added something more personal. In his view, Canelo brings nothing Crawford hasn't seen before in some form. Not the body work, not the patient pressure, not the counter shots that look slow and land hard. Porter doesn't pretend Canelo isn't dangerous. He just believes Crawford's card catalog of styles, the men he's fought and the looks he assaulted, is deeper than people realize. That adaptability is why Porter believes this fight fits Crawford like a carefully tailored suit. No one, least of all 68, isn't a creative writing exercise on a tail-of-the-tape graphic. It changes everything. Bigger men carry different power. A super middleweight with Canelo's base doesn't get nudged off his line by the same bump that moves a welterweight. The question isn't whether Crawford can be great. He already is. The question is whether his greatness scales up to a class where new rules apply. For every fighter who made the leap from lighter divisions to topple giants, think Mayweather neutralizing Canelo in 2013. Others have discovered the limits of even elite skill against size, leverage, and a planted base. That's what makes Bernard Hopkins' famous 85% prediction so fascinating. Hopkins has straddled this line. He knows how to take larger men apart without playing their game. His read on Crawford isn't blind loyalty. It's tactical confidence. He believes but won't fall into the macho trap Canelo thrives in. He expects Crawford to establish early without taking the kind of risks that turn nights sour. The Hopkins formula is stark. Show him you belong. Your chin more than your feet. There's a quieter part of this story that deepens it. Crawford has shown consistent admiration for Canelo's place in the timeline. He calls him one of the last giants from a golden era. The Floyd Mayweathers, the Manny Pacquiaos, the Oscar de la Hoyas. Canelo fought some of those men. He carried the torch when others left the stage. For Bud, this isn't just about undisputed titles and pound-for-pound rankings. It's about making history against someone who already wrote a few chapters himself. That perspective gives the fight a heavy glow. Not two men bickering online, but two champions squeezing their primes for meaning in front of the world. Some of the sizzle has been lighter. Mike Perry said he's riding with Mexican power, and he's hardly alone. National pride is woven into boxing's fabric. Canelo steps into the ring not just as a champion, but as a symbol of Mexican excellence. Crawford, meanwhile, carries Midwestern grit and the quiet ferocity of an American craftsman who moved in silence until he forced the sport to speak on his name. Even jabs tell you Canelo smiling through talk of Turkey Alashik. Crawford delivering a face-off shove meant to draw lines on the canvas before the paint dries. Every clip turns into fuel. So where does this leave the men training behind closed doors? Canelo's call to bring in Jaron Boots Ennis and other ambidextrous sparring partners tells you his team is building a sophisticated game plan. One built on anticipating switches, picking up rhythms, and staying honest in defense when southpaw angles start to unfold. Andre Rozier praised the move openly. The ambition, he said, shows exactly why Canelo has stayed at the top for so long. He adapts. He prepares. He hires the right kind of pressure to test himself before the real pressure starts. The pushback to that argument has weight. 2. People around Crawford insist his camp isn't built on imitation. It's built on versatility. They talk about the minds at work with him. Andre Ward offering champion-level film study. Shakur Stevenson sharpening reads and distance work. And a revolving cast of training partners who put him in bad situations on purpose. Crawford indicated. Bud is preparing to be the version you can't. To understand how this fight could look, you have to imagine the first 8 minutes. Crawford will try to own the feet, not with dramatic movement, but with tiny steps, subtle angles, and the kind of feints that freeze the bigger man just long enough for the jab to land or the straight to sneak through. Canelo will touch the arms, touch the chest, and dig to the body when he can to tax the engine. He'll bank body investment so that in rounds 8, 9, and 10, the sudden lack of spring in Crawford's legs will open doors that were closed earlier. The chess match is the fight's real hook. Can Bud keep the geometry clean long enough to pile up rounds? Or will Canelo force the exchanges that make the weight he brought with him matter? One thing separates this fight from most super fights we've seen in recent years. Nobody is clowning. There is no pantomime villain, no cartoon talk, no circus. Just two champions and their corners operating at a level that shines, stripped down to its bones. Why this fight carries a heavier tone online. Whether you're shouting that weight classes exist for a reason, or insisting that ring IQ is a real, you're sitting on a particular side of a very old argument. Styles make fights, so do sizes. We are all about to find out which of those truths has more authority here. If you've been watching clips of William Skull and Dimitri Bivol, it's because they map parts of Crawford's available strategy. Trickle work rate, vary the distance by inches, make Canelo turn to find you. Don't exchange on Canelo's rhythm. Force him to exchange on yours. You can hear the echoes of Mayweather's masterclass in 2013. The slide backs, the check hooks, the unwillingness to stand still for 2 seconds in a row under Canelo's eyes. But this isn't Mayweather. Crawford's counterpunching is more violent. He'll take one to return 3. That risk-reward math changes at 168. Bud will have to trust his reflexes and his red to end exchanges at his choosing, or he'll lose them because of brute force. Shout out to Antonio Tarver for another hard truth. If Crawford leaves this in the judge's hands, he might be inviting disappointment in a close fight, whether warranted or not. Champions have found it difficult to take close decisions from Canelo. If Bud wants a guarantee, Tarver argued, he may have to stop a man who has never been stopped. That's not a prediction, it's a reminder. Every round matters in ways that transcend copies of the scorecard at ringside. Meanwhile, the world outside their camps is adjusting to a new reality. Streaming platforms, Netflix above all, are proving that the old question of how many households are watching can be replaced by how many screens are watching. The answer, as Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson showed, is a lot. Boxing has always needed fights that pull in casuals. The key is that spectacles must coexist with genuine sporting merit. Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford sits perfectly on that knife's edge. It's a legitimate match that also carries the outside the ring scale streaming executives crave. So what are we going to see? If Canelo gets the fight he wants, pockets of pressure, a ring that feels 3 feet smaller than it looked at the opening bell, body shots that slow Bud's exits, he wins rounds through control, not chaos. If Crawford gets the fight he wants, tiny wins, fast hands that arrive where Canelo's eyes aren't, a rhythm that lives behind feints and small steps. he can reach the final bell with points on the ledger that matter more than any single sledgehammer. Those who back Canelo emphasize that one clean punch can flip the script. Those who back Crawford counter that the punch you don't see is the one that ends a night. And no one in the sport creates those